Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Crowded Booth. Tonight, we talk not necessarily hot seat, but coaches that are going to be feeling the pressure as 2024 enters. Ralph Leary, Will Manis alongside me. My name is Bryce Koon. You're watching the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Welcome in. Ralph, how you doing on this fine evening? Can you not hear me?
I hear you. Your screen was very delayed, so it was just your frozen face, and I heard you talk. I was very confused there.
Can you see me now?
I see you very clearly.
Awesome. How you doing on this fine Monday evening? And in the month of March, I want to ask you before we get rolling here. How bad did the time change screw you up, or did it at all?
Not really. I think when we lose, when we spring backwards, I think that really hurts me more, especially as a driver for UPS because it gets darker earlier. It makes life a lot easier when you can see it like 7 o'clock. Like I go back to like last summer, the summer before that when I was driving, and you're going. It's a Friday night and it's like 6:45, and you're like it's still bright outside. You're not as worried about being out there late. So yeah,
it messed me up, man. I woke up Sunday and was just not feeling great. Like, wasn't feeling great to begin with. And then you turn in the fact that you lose an hour of sleep. And what was crazy is technically it goes from like what? It goes from like 1:59 or it goes from like
1:59 to 1, isn't it?
No. We lost an hour. So you went forward.
So 1:59 like 3? All right.
Yeah. Over here it went from 2 to 4 or whatever it was, or like 12 to 2. I don't know what it was. All I know is that I looked at my clock, got up to go to the bathroom, and it was like 11:15. Then went back to sleep, woke up for what I felt was like maybe an hour and a half, and it was like 3:15. And I was like, this is miserable.
I was coming off a long day on Friday. And so I crashed early when I got home. When I say early, I was like 11:45, 12 o'clock. But Sunday or Saturday night, it kind of like I slept so late Saturday and then took a nap that I went to bed late Sunday. Like I think I fell asleep around like 1:30ish in the morning. And then I realized look at my watch and it said 3:30. I'm like, what happened here? Where'd the hour go? And I was like, oh wait, we sprung forward.
Jonesy says, wait till y'all get old, like me. You're gonna have to go take some naps. We might. And Dr. Bob says, are we live? Yeah, we're doing it live. We are doing it live. Yeah. I don't know, man. Look, the time change, I've never understood it in terms of like, I don't know what we're using for it now because there's not like, I do understand that I don't want to sound like an idiot here, Ralph. I understand why we have the fallback and the spring forward and everything.
It's for the farmers.
Yeah, and I was very close to saying like it doesn't matter anymore, but then someone would have said, Bryce, where do you think you get your food from? Like what? Like I get it from the grocery store. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Well, hey, he's here.
Is he here?
I'm here.
I'm
here. I apologize.
Big win today.
Got the win.
Let's go.
Had to talk with the athletic director. She had to be at soccer game, so she missed the game. So got to do
big win.
Got to do that. Got to do that part of the coaching job.
Yeah. Big win tonight at the expense of my cousin. I heard, which was hilarious.
Oh yeah. Your poor cousin.
Yeah.
Came in and is going to get tabbed with the loss.
We don't have to talk about it. That's fine.
I hope we should.
It's fact.
We don't have to. That's okay. Well, hey, let's talk. Since now you're here, kind of what tonight's show's about. Now, first off, before we kind of get started here, we want to lay out what we're talking about. We are not going to sit here and say that every single coach on our list, and I made a list, Ralph kind of added one name to it. You can shoot a couple names over in the private chat over to Ralph if you want. We're not talking about Auburn. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. But
I was going to say, I already saw that name on the list.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about that. That'll be a separate show for the later in the week. You can talk about is Hugh Freeze feeling the pressure. That being said, tonight we're going to talk about just some of the coaches that are feeling the pressure. And some of these guys are on the hot seat. Like some of these guys, you have to win now or you're done. And it's pretty public. Others, I would say we keep an eye on them. But teams and programs and coaches that are feeling the pressure in 2024, expanded playoff, new conference realignment kicks in this year across the country. So we're going to get into that. And Ralph, we're going to discuss this as a whole too. So Ralph, throw up that first name on the list. It's a pretty obvious one that we're rolling with here. Billy Napier over at Florida. Guys, there's not a harder schedule in the country than what Florida's going to have to navigate in 2024. There was talk. Okay, let's go back to November, December. There was talk about this potentially being something where, look, he's got a top 5 recruiting class. And then, Will, you and I talked about it fell off the rails pretty quickly. He still has DJ Lagway. But is he going to be able to make it through this season? Like, what number does he have to hit? I think Billy Napier's in trouble. And listen, I like Billy Napier. I think he's a good coach. It's just a really, really tough situation that he's with this Florida program in year number 3?
Right, yeah, year 3.
In a brand new SEC.
Well, you gotta see what he's failed to do his first 2 years, which is make a bowl game, which is the bare minimum in the SEC. It's the bare minimum in what used to be the Power 5. You call it Power 4, I call it the Power 2, but he's got to make a bowl game. So he's got to get to 6. I think he will get some sympathy because, like I said, the schedule is ridiculous. You look at their schedule, they might have to start 6-0 to make a bowl game. That's how difficult the back half of their schedule is.
Yeah.
Their final 6 games, they host Kentucky, they play Georgia, they go to Texas, host LSU, host Ole Miss, and go to Florida State. Depending on what we see out of Kentucky, with them being very new faces, Brock Vandegrift, new quarterback there, Florida may not be favored in any of those final 6 games. And that's very concerning because 4 of those are at home. So it's very tough. But, the first 6 aren't a cakewalk either. They open with Miami, and then they play Samford, Texas A&M at home. Then they go to Mississippi State. Got to think that they'll win that one in Samford. And then they host UCF, which that's not a cakewalk either. So he's got to get to 6. And, if they start 6-0, you've got to give them another year.
Yeah. Because the back half is ridiculous.
The schedule. Yes.
The back half is ridiculous. And as I look here, at the 2025 rankings where Florida sits, they've only got 5 commits, 3 3-stars, 3 4-stars, 1 3-star. So there's potential to build with this class, but a lot of these kids, and we're kind of where they're shaping when they moved up signing day, you're going to see a lot of these kids make, official visits in the summer and make their decision a lot of times before, the season commences. And then that's kind of where you see the decommitments and guys maybe take late OVs to certain spots and flip later in the cycle. Recruiting's all over the place. It's going to matter here. Will, you just mentioned you're playing really the big Florida schools you got on the schedule this year. So it's a head-to-head.
They play all of them.
Yeah, it's every single one of them, except our friends over there in Boca Raton. Shout out to Tom Herman and company. But what
Florida's
you have
lucky.
going on.
They're lucky they scheduled UCF and not Florida Atlantic.
There you go. But what you kind of have, what you have with this, guys, is really kind of a recipe of, okay, Florida's sitting here they've got talent. Now, it is not up to the par of a Tier 1 SEC team, Tier 2
Billy
SEC
Napier said
team.
that.
Yeah, he's been very vocal
ago.
about that. And the problem is it hasn't really changed either. Like, that's the problem. And 2, you got Graham Mertz, highly efficient, like we talked about in our quarterback tier rankings, not super explosive. I think all 3 of us don't feel like he's a guy that can go out there and necessarily win you a football game by himself. I will admit those kind of guys are far and few in between when you're looking at different talent. But I don't know. Ralph, your thoughts, Florida, Billy Napier. Will kind of laid it out there. The first half of the schedule is where you're going to have to make your money because that back half, I will say this, if you can sneak one of those on the back half, create some late season momentum, win a bowl game, if you can get to 8 wins, I think he's safe. 7 wins, I think he's safe, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say the max is 7. I think 7 wins, and they're happy with him, and he's surviving for another year. I think that's it. But we go back to Florida coaches in the past that have skated by with the 6-6 season, the 7-5 seasons, and how long they were there and how long they were tenured for. And you wonder why is Napier getting a little bit more linear? Well, it's because they hadn't really had any like success recruiting wise. Yeah. I mean, everyone before him has just not recruited well. And so he didn't have much to work with. Now he's finally getting recruiting classes in, and they just haven't turned over well either. I think this is the year that he actually has his guys officially in. I think we would consider his guys now. And, are they going to be successful? I don't know if that's, what he obviously doesn't believe they can be because he doesn't believe how good they could be this year. I think that, having Lagway right now is huge. If he steps into a starting role at some point this season, is he going to be there for the future? I think I think if they go below 6 wins and he does not play at all, he's gone, hands down. And I think that right there ruins that means Napier's gone. If they go under 6 wins, Lagway leaves, then Napier's gone because there's nothing to build on at that point. You're hoping that he can keep some of the recruits there, and I don't think he will be able to.
Yeah, really good point. If he plays Lagway toward the end of the season and the offense looks competitive, they have a little bit more explosiveness than they do with Mertz. It may not matter. They may just say, you know what, we can do better. Napier's recruited fairly well, even though last year didn't end the way they wanted it to. But if Lagway shows enough just to keep him there to have a shot, they'll probably just go with Napier again.
Yeah, like what you said there.
Obviously, the recruiting class will matter too. If he can stay in the top 15 nationally, he's got a really good shot of keeping his job.
And just to kind of piggyback off that, I mean, Ralph, you made a great point. Like, how much is Lagway and his group, his I don't want to say agency, but his group, his company, how much are they going to want to stay on in year 2 of a program or year 2 in that program with a brand new coach, brand new potential scheme, brand new offense, all that kind of stuff? You kind of have to ask that. I'm with you. I don't think he stays. And I don't think Billy Napier's there to begin with if they don't get to 500. You kind of look at what they did last year, 6-7 with the Las Vegas Bowl. They went 5-2 last year to start the season off, guys, and then finished and lost the last 5 games, including one to Arkansas that they should not have lost at home. I don't know if you guys remember that football game. That was a bad one, a bad loss.
Did they beat Tennessee early in the year this past season?
They did.
They did.
Yeah, they beat Tennessee at home.
They had some serious momentum.
That game was. I mean, that Ricky Purcell was an absolute freak that game. Their defense played outstanding. And we saw what we thought that Billy Napier could do at Florida that one game. And that was the one, and you're like, so he had that win under his belt. Tennessee at home, big win. And then they just kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It faded away. So,
well, and I believe 5-2 would have gotten them to the game in Jacksonville. I believe that game was Georgia, Florida. And it was 5-2 Florida, 7-0 Georgia at the time. And that was kind of where the slide started, understandably so, but they just never recovered after that one. And that was kind of a big one. I like what Dr. Bob says here. This is such a true statement, especially for the LSU fans. Florida hasn't been the same since the shoe flew. Man, what a game. One of the better games of that COVID season, by the way, Florida and LSU. That was crazy.
I think that 2019 game was even crazier, though. That was a great game, too.
Florida's had some talent. I would argue too, they haven't been the same since Tim Tebow was there. They haven't had a quarterback, like a legitimate top 5 quarterback in
Will Greer was until everything that happened with him.
I mean, what was the other guy's name that plays for Tampa Bay now?
Kyle Trask. You're hating on Kyle Trask.
He was good. He was there, but he had one really good year, right? Because he was there for 2 years. One really good year.
He had Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, they were. And
but I mean, in looking at Florida's schedule real quick, I mean, there's a possibility they start the season off 2-4 and he's gone.
Oh, absolutely.
And they start 2-4 with wins against Sanford and Mississippi State, and you lost to UCF, Tennessee, A&M, and Miami. You're gone, and then because it's going downhill after that. So,
well, yes, I agree.
That would be that right there would be the one like that would cause the program to basically plummet. If they have to fire him midway through the season,
and there might not be a worse time in our sport to plummet than right now. And if Florida does that, that's a death knell for that program.
But they have the resources to rebuild. Let's just say that.
They do.
Let's be honest.
But the problem is it's going to become one of those programs like as when we were younger and we watched college football, sat on the couch all day on Saturdays. We still do that. But when we could, do it and avoid homework, Florida was a brand. Mm-hmm. Florida, people recognize the logo. People recognize the Gator Chomp. The Swamp was, a crazy place to play. It's starting to feel like Florida it might be entering that slippery slope like Texas was on during the 2010s. Miami has been on for a long time, where people our age remember what Florida was. We remember the Chris Leak, the Tim Tebow, keep going back to Danny Warfel. I mean, even further, they've just kind of been for so long. It'd be interesting. Be interesting to see. All right, we're going to move to the next SEC program on this list, I believe, whose potential to be fired might be even quicker than what is going to happen with Florida and Billy Napier. I got Sam Pittman, Arkansas. And look, I want to preface this with this, okay? Tons of people watching. We appreciate you. Like the video. Make sure you're doing all that kind of stuff as well. And I see a lot of people watching over on Twitter. If you want to get your comment in, head over to our YouTube channel, and you can subscribe right there as well. Wanted to talk about this, guys, because one, Sam Pittman might be one of the most well-respected and well-liked guys in this profession. Everyone loves Sam Pittman.
That's everyone there.
Yeah,
that's exactly why
I hate the fact that they kept him though. Like because this is a dead man walking situation for me. Pittman's a great guy. Arkansas loses KJ Jefferson. They bring in some talent, but this is a group. They bring in Bobby Petrino to be the offensive coordinator,
back, baby.
Who is essentially just the interim head coach at this point, which is just going to be a wild scene. You're what was it? Here we go. What was that stupid saying that he said when he landed a recruit? I think it was crank up that jukebox, or what was it? Remember,
he says that after a
win. After they win, no. He's talking about the Twitter videos that he used to put out when he was the O-line coach at Georgia.
Yes, sir. He's like,
yes, sir. Something crazy. Something crazy. Will, your thoughts on Sam Pittman, because this is a well-liked guy. And I think it's really sad at a place like Arkansas that does have money, by the way. They got
a ton of money.
A ton of money. The cultural fit's there. It makes so much sense. I was really high on them. You go back a couple years ago, I believe it was 2021. They walked into Athens undefeated. And ever since then, man, it just hasn't worked out.
Mm-hmm. I think you could be looking at an Ed Orgeron at LSU situation here with Pittman. Because he is so well liked, and I don't think he's lost that locker room. I think those players still play for him. So you could see him after 7 or 8 games being the interim head coach. And I think part of that has to do with him bringing in Bobby Petrino and all that baggage and the history there. Because obviously he would be the logical choice to be the interim head coach if they made a change. But with all the history there, we may just see him kind of be a lame duck the last 4 or 5 games and just see the season out. Looking at their schedule, it's tough too. I mean, they have to go to Oklahoma State. They play UAB, which will be, Arkansas is a program that's lost to a number of Group of 5 teams or lower.
Dilfer's dimes, baby.
Right. UAB is going to come in there. They're going to put up points. And I don't know that Arkansas will be able to keep up with them. They got a ton of home games. Wow. The second half of the season, they only have 2 road games, Mississippi State and Missouri. But they have to play Texas.
They had the neutral site where it's A&M. Remember that?
Right. Yeah. They play them in Dallas. Pittman, he's great. He's a great O-line coach. Like you, Bryce, I was very high on him. I thought this was the perfect place for him. If he was going to be a head coach, especially in the SEC, it was going to be here at Arkansas. But he just hasn't been able to get him over the hump. And, I really do think it'll be, if they don't announce it, this is probably the last year for him, no matter what.
He was hanging on by a thread this year. Like there was, and if somehow Arkansas fans come across our page, I encourage you, hogsports.com, the 24/7 branch. They do this great segment where their publisher does post game rants where he literally goes selfie mode and walks around the stadium and rants. And it is, I'm not kidding, the amount of times that I got home from an LSU game and would just put that up on the monitor while I was editing, interviews or anything like that, or writing up, recaps and articles and stuff. It is quality entertainment. But I say that to say is there was a massive push of why didn't we just cut bait? Like what are we waiting on with this? And I hate to talk about this because I hate talking about people's jobs and their livelihood. And some fans don't care because they say, hey, you get paid a bunch of money and you'll be fine. I get that. But when you start to think about the families and, Will, you mentioned too the fit. Like Sam Pittman loves Arkansas, and deep down Razorback fans love Sam Pittman. This just hasn't worked out. You go back to it, guys. Back-to-back 2-win seasons. Winless SEC campaigns under former Auburn OC.
I was about to say, and then Auburn hired that guy to be the offensive coordinator.
Just a wild time. They went 3-7 in an SEC only campaign 2020, but man, 9-4 with an Outback Bowl win in 2021, 7-6 2022, 4-8 2023. And I even say this with the year this past year, early on in that season, they lose to BYU at home. Not a good look. They go on the road the next week or had a bye week and they come to LSU, and they almost beat LSU in Death Valley, which is a hard thing to do. Crazy crowd, big rivalry game too for both those programs. And they lost that game. And then you could just kind of see, it felt like the fight and the will to win, man, it's devastating. And they just lost close game after close game after close game. We mentioned earlier they beat with Florida. I don't know. I like Sam Pittman. This is just feels like the writing's on the wall.
Right. You talk about, people asking what?
No, I was gonna say you finish, Will, please.
You talk about fans asking, why don't they just cut bait and make a change? I really think it was poor timing for Arkansas because, call me what you want, but I think their two top choices, it was not a good time for them to make a move for them. Malzahn after 1 year in the Big 12 at UCF, and Rhett Lashley with his SMU program going to the ACC. It would have been tough for those guys to leave, even to go back home to Arkansas. And you look at the situation that roster's in, the SEC is where it is. Both of those, they've got both of their programs on the rise already, joining bigger conferences. So I think timing was bad for Arkansas, and really they could have done worse by firing him and having to settle for somebody that they didn't really want.
Yeah. I think Dr. Bob mentioned earlier in the comments, he said the new Tulane head coach would be a potential candidate. Man, if they win the AAC this year and they're in the playoff, I know Tulane signed. People get caught up in, well, he signed a massive deal. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, that means nothing.
That don't matter. Jerry Jones is back in, and Walmart's back in those folks over there in Fayetteville, and sometimes in Little Rock when they decide they want to play over there for some reason. But man, Sam Pittman, Arkansas. Ralph, any final?
Play Arkansas Pine Bluff in Little Rock this year. So there you go.
I don't even want to talk about who they just mentioned in the comments because I refuse to talk about someone that just leaves a program like that. I go back to the 2021 season with Sam Pittman. They started off the season with a shaky game against Rice. It wasn't pretty, but they won big. They come home and they play Texas and beat them like a drum. And we thought Arkansas is here. This was just like, okay, this is it. This is when Arkansas makes the rise back up. Yeah, and they did. They beat Georgia Southern. They beat A&M, a good A&M team that year. And then they
are you saying Georgia Southern's a quality win?
I was about to say that.
I was going on the schedule.
Oh, okay. Like that's a. Ralph was talking like that was a big time win.
Well, it was Rice, Texas, Georgia Southern, A&M.
So I was like, dang. All right, Ralph.
Hey, you got to think about who we're talking to here. That's a big deal for Ralph. That means a lot.
Sunbelt Billy, Sunbelt Ralphie. I mean, we got him right there.
But they beat A&M in a great game. That was a fun game to watch that year. And then they go to Georgia, game days there, and they get blasted.
Oh,
and we just thought, and then they go at Ole Miss, lose by a point. That's a heartbreaker loss. Go get home against Auburn. Auburn, not really the best team, beat you at home. And that's right there. I think that's when it started sliding because you had all these high hopes. We were like, wow, the Arkansas team is so good this year, and they had a good running game. KJ Jefferson was doing everything he had to do, and just I don't know. Pittman is. I've been a huge fan of Pittman for a while. I'm a big offensive line guy. I thought he's done a great job at Georgia. I thought he was the right hire at Arkansas at the first place because they were coming off of just rough 2 years, and
it was awful.
They needed somebody to lift the team up, and he was he's the kind of guy. He's a hopeful guy, I guess you'd say.
He's Ed Orgeron. I mean, that he's a
guy.
motivator. He's a motivator in a locker room. He needed good X's and O's guys around him. And unfortunately, once he lost, who was the OC that left this past
Kendall
year?
Briles.
Once he lost Kendall Briles, that hurt. That hurt.
Yeah, so, I think. And I just think, it's beating a dead horse if we keep saying like Pittman's on a hot seat. I think everyone knows he was on a hot seat last year. And the fact that he got kept for 1 year, it's almost, I don't want to say insulting, but it's kind of sad to watch. Because if he does have a good year, I don't think they keep him anyway. I think he's gone no matter what.
Well, it defines what a good year is. Now, if they go 9-3.
Okay, well, 9-3.
I mean, they're
not going
7-5.
7-5, and then win a bowl game and get to 8-5. Probably. Here's the problem.
Might be enough.
And it's crazy. Is we got to move on to some more guys because we got a long list. But the crazy thing about Pittman, when I did our LSU Arkansas preview, I said, "What's the weakness?" And they said, "Offensive line." They missed on their offensive line additions, which is crazy. It's just crazy. They missed on the portal. They had a really good defensive line. Really good.
How great their offensive line was like 5 years ago. Like how solid.
Brett Bielema.
Yeah. They had Bielema, and then went to Sam Pittman. You're like, wow, this offense line's gonna get better, and they just never did.
Yeah,
just never did. They had one of the best receivers though, with Treylon Burks. That dude was a freak.
It's just the KJ Jefferson and Burks show. Oh man, that was
what it was.
It's crazy. All right, next guy. Let's rock and roll. Keep rolling here. Lincoln Riley, USC. All right, now I want to preface it with this. Do I think Lincoln Riley is going to get fired? No. But I think that USC is behind everyone except for UCLA entering the Big Ten. And I think that USC is not built to play in the Big Ten.
No.
I think that's pretty obvious. And I think we're starting to see a trend, and I'm not saying it can't change, but here's the trend for you. We're going to light up the scoreboard, but the other team's going to light us up too. Until they figure out how to play defense, that top tier of the Big Ten is going to beat them, and I think there's a good quest for the middle tier to beat them because they're going to play defense, and there's going to be some low-scoring games. I don't know if USC – I mean, look, Caleb Williams not there anymore, but they got a good quarterback that they're going to play with there in 2024. Solid performance in the bowl game, but that was a bowl game. Can he translate that to the season? Will, your thoughts? It's just pressure, not necessarily hot seat. I feel like Lincoln Riley and USC, they're under pressure to do something as they enter into kind of this hoopla excitement of a new conference and a new age of college football.
Yeah, I disagree with you a little bit. I think he is very much on the hot seat. They bring him in from Oklahoma to make the playoff. I mean, this is a guy that made the playoff with Oklahoma despite not having a defense. And he's gone to USC and not done that in a weaker conference in the Pac-12. I think you said it. They are going to struggle big time in year one in the Big Ten. They have to go to Michigan early in the year in September. They get a lot of the Big Ten West, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and those games are going to be ugly. We know Wisconsin, Minnesota, they've got Rutgers on the schedule. Those teams, they muddy up games. They play defense. They play ugly games. And, USC, I don't think is built to do that, unless I haven't kept up with what they've done in the portal, unless they've brought in some guys that some linemen, basically, offense and defensive linemen that can do that, can muddy up a game, make it ugly and win it ugly. They're going to struggle big time. They're going to lose a ton of games, even this year, 4 or 5, maybe even 6 games, depending on how they adjust, because the travel is pretty nuts. At Michigan versus Wisconsin, at Minnesota versus Penn State, at Maryland versus Rutgers, at Washington. So they're pinging back and forth every week. That's going to be very difficult to adjust to. And, oh, by the way, you open with LSU, who I know they lost a lot on offense, but had probably the best offense in the country last year. So it's not a cakewalk for them either. And I'm very interested to see how they fit into the Big Ten. I don't think it's going to be good for them this year. But hey, you got classic uniforms. It's going to be fun to watch on TV.
Yeah, when they play Penn State, that's just going to be aesthetically pleasing, right? Like it's going to be really pretty to watch. Talking about that cornerback or the transfer portal class, they bring in Jaden Maeva, the quarterback from UNLV that was like at Georgia for like 42 seconds and then transferred over to USC. Isaiah Rakes, former 4-star from Texas A&M defensive lineman. And I'm just going strictly with like front seven guys. They did get Jaquavius Marks from Mississippi State. He's a solid running back. They're going to bring in.
Very good running back.
But outside of that, Nate Clifton from Vanderbilt, who didn't poach from Vanderbilt this year, that list is probably shorter. Easton Mascarenas Arnold, 4-star transfer linebacker from Oregon State. I can tell you this, and this is not a slight. It is. LSU brought in a linebacker from Oregon State. He was the Pac-12 leader in tackles, and it was awful. So I don't know how much that's really going to go there. So what I'm saying here is we ready to throw it to you, Ralph. I mean, look, the pressure's on, hands down. Big Ten's going to play a bully style of football. You're going to get into some ugly games, and it's against teams like, when I look at the schedule, I don't think you're going to beat the Michigans, the Penn States, honestly, maybe even the Washingtons, the the LSUs of the world. But how are you going to deal with the Wisconsin game? Like, that's going to be a game where it is going to be bully ball. Rutgers. Look, Greg Schiano's going to have a tough physical brand of football, and even Nebraska to a certain extent, and then Notre Dame too. I mean, you're going to be facing some quality, well-coached competition. A couple of you guys, I think both of you guys had Big Ten over the SEC. I think maybe Will did in our conference rankings last week. But Ralph, for you, USC's just got to get better on defense, and I don't know if they have the offensive firepower to just keep doing this every single year. Because I think Lincoln Riley had better offenses at Oklahoma, personally.
Ralph, you're muted.
You're muted. Yes, we finally got Ralph muted and not me. Anyways, Ralph, take it away.
I completely agree. He definitely had better offenses at Oklahoma than he did as his tenure starts at USC. One thing we talked about, though, he brought in 11 transfers in the portal. They lost 20. Now, I know a lot of these guys aren't role players. They weren't straight up starters. They're not guys that are, big on losing, but you lose your starting quarterback with Caleb Williams. You lose your running back with Marshawn Lloyd. You lose one of your best receivers in Mario Williams. You lose a lot of your offensive weapons, and you're going off a limb that hopefully your quarterback next year is going to be able to carry what Caleb Williams has done. And now you're going to a Big Ten that has better defenses in the Pac-12. You can't compete defensively with any of those teams out there. So how are you going to win games? I don't know. I don't think they win 8 games next year. I believe 7-5 is what we'll see USC this year. I mean, you pulled that schedule you talked about a minute ago. Michigan week 3, LSU week 1, Wisconsin right after Michigan. I mean, that's not easy. That is not a favorable schedule for them at all. And I think they could probably put 35, 40 points a game. Dr. Bob, if you put one more comment about Summerall, you are out of here. I'm telling you straight.
No,
right
but
now,
this is it. Mario Williams,
important.
their star, one of their star players left. So I mean, you talk about a guy that was going to be an option there. But yes,
and so I can't see them being successful this year. And I don't think he gets fired if they win 8 games. They win 7 games because it's his first year in the conference. I think you let him adapt to this new conference 1 year. And then next year, if it's the same thing, he's gone. I just don't think that he has a chance of being there long in this Big Ten because I don't think they compete well in the Big Ten with this roster they have right now and what they're trying to do in the future.
You want to hear something crazy?
The travel. Are you going to talk about the schedule?
Well, I was going to say one thing real quick. FanDuel came out with their over-under win totals. Okay.
7.5.
If you took a USC fan, yes, 7.5, which is great by both of you. If you took USC fans and said, hey, yeah, FanDuel, Vegas, odds makers, they think you're going to sit the same win total as Nebraska, Washington, okay, Iowa, and Maryland. If you're telling a USC fan, we think you're going to win just as many games as Maryland.
Nebraska's at 7.5? Are we sure? Why?
I mean,
buddy,
look at this schedule. they don't play 2 home games in a row all year because they open in Vegas against LSU. They come home to play Utah State, then they go to Michigan, come back to play Wisconsin, go to Minnesota, come back to play Penn State, go to Maryland, come back to play Rutgers, go to Washington, come back to play Nebraska. UCLA, that's across town. So, I mean, I guess you can count those almost as a home game. And then Notre Dame at home.
One time. I'll tell you one thing. They're lucky they don't have to go to Penn State and Maryland because that'd be awful back-to-back weeks.
Well, I mean, it's crazy.
You might as well stay there the whole week.
I know you would stay. You would.
You're going across country. That's why these expanded conferences.
Bryce, isn't Florida State staying in Ireland like a week after the game or something like that?
Florida State's doing something for that game in Ireland.
They're probably going a full week before.
Something. I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something.
I tell you one thing. Bryce would never watch this game. Bryce would refuse to watch games. You have one.
I'd rather watch Texas State play UL Monroe.
Would be 3-2.
It would be a much more exciting game.
I'd rather watch the MEAC play.
The MEAC.
Yeah. I mean, it's to the point where I don't know. I won't say he's on the hot seat because first year conference, you're now lost your Heisman winning quarterback. Just let him have 1 year. Let him see if it because they got Malachi Nelson.
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. He plays at Boise State now.
Dude, they got nobody. That's the thing that's crazy.
Wait, I'm sorry. Where is he? Oh, there he is. I'm sorry. I never saw him.
Yeah, Boise State.
What?
I mean, I saw Ken Hendricks in the chat. Why in the world should USC be patient? They shouldn't be. This is USC.
Yeah.
I mean, they are a national brand. They're a blue blood of college football. There's no reason to be patient. I mean, if they come in here and to the Big Ten and win less than 8 games, I don't know how you don't make a change.
And I'll say this too: we really do need to make football fun again on the West Coast. Washington and Oregon did a fun job of that for the Pac, and the Pac-12 did a decent job of that. But especially like LA, like I know it's a pro sports dominated city. But, man, you go back to, once again, I'm going to take us back, guys, to the 2000s when Pete Carroll was there, Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, stars galore on the sideline of those games. Yep. And now it's just like, oh, yeah, USC's playing. Also, I didn't know this, but their stadium's like straight up near Compton, apparently. Like, it's wild. It's like crazy.
They can't. They'll never be able to, like, UCLA will never be able to fill that stadium up. And USC's the same way. I mean, no one's going to show up for a game they don't care about. I mean,
you have to become a relevant power
because you're going to
go. Fill it when Auburn was there.
When did Auburn go there?
When Auburn played
UCLA.
Cal.
Oh, Cal. Yeah, never mind.
I mean, Cal fans had a good bit.
I deserve that.
Look, I'll tell you this though. Watching the game, there was more Cal fans than I think UCLA fans would have been there.
Agree.
Because I think Cal fans, they were excited for that game. As a big SEC opponent coming to your town, you would be excited.
All right, let's get to a couple comments here. Mr. Singh, one of the best call-ins I've ever had on this show since we started doing it last Tuesday night. Well, I don't know if you got to catch it. It was phenomenal. Like some seriously,
I'm have to go back
really, really good. He goes, University of Spoiled Children. Dr. Bob says Howard against North Carolina Central is better than USC Iowa. I agree. I'd rather watch that at Turner Field. That's what I'd rather watch. So
don't disrespect the home of. Never mind. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah,
I'm not going to burn it down tonight. I'm not going to burn it down tonight.
We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. All right, let's roll in a couple more names because we're 39 minutes into this thing. We've gotten through 3 names. Great content. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video. Dave Aranda. Will, you said it's a basketball school. I will say this. It's just been disappointing because I think Aranda had something going there. And it really felt like when the news that Texas and Oklahoma were going to jump to the SEC, you're like, okay, Aranda's one of the top coaches in the Big 12. This is a chance for Baylor to become a Tier 1 team in the Big 12. And they have just had, I want to make sure I get this right. It's been weird. 2-7 in his first season. It was COVID year. They go from 2 to 12 wins. They win the Sugar Bowl, okay, in 2021. They finished 5th in the country, by the way. So essentially, they were the next team out. It's just crazy to think about. 6-7 in 2022, and then 3-9, and they went 2-7 in the Big 12. They have gone from a potential we can lead a new Big 12 to are they relevant? And I'll tell you, even relevant in the recruiting ranks. It's kind of crazy.
I have one thing to say about this. They lost T.J. Finley in Texas State week 1.
T.J. Finley lit folks up this past year.
T.J. Finley lit up Dave Aranda's defense. I mean, that's just right there. Shows you how that seat is hot.
LSU fans wanted Dave Aranda to come back midseason to be the DC. Will, your thoughts on Baylor?
Well, I mean, I'm with you. I think Dave Aranda as a football coach is one of the top 3 in this new Big 12. Really good coach. To be honest, like I said, Baylor's a basketball school, so you really just kind of need to be competitive in football to keep that job. But I don't know who, just as a pure football coach, that you're going to get better or more committed than Dave Aranda. I mean, if I was Baylor, I think I would have a very long leash with him, because I don't know who you're going to get that's better than Dave Aranda. So I mean, the Big 12, even adding Utah, Colorado, the Arizonas, it's still very winnable for Baylor. I think you can recruit your backyard and put together a really good team, a team probably good enough to win that conference, or at least be competitive, very competitive in the conference. So I mean, I think it sounds to me like I'm higher on Dave Aranda than y'all are, or at least the prospects of him keeping his job. And now Bryce is muted.
It's okay. Ralph's muted.
Ralph is still muted.
Ralph's still muted. So it's 2-1. And he turned his camera off.
I wanted to be muted because I was yelling.
How about you? Can you turn your camera? Can you put your camera down just a little bit?
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, buddy.
Just blind everybody.
There we go. There we go.
Kevin Hart with comment of the night.
Jeez, throwing the PS5 out the window. Dr. Bob says, watch Baylor go in 10 games. That would be crazy. Ken Hendricks says, Dave Aranda goes to Arkansas. I feel like the silly sort of thing that could happen. I think Aranda's a good football coach. I think he's a good X's and O's. I think what you're seeing, and Ralph, you already got to speak on this, so we're not going to let you speak again. I'll just end it because we got to get through these names. Oh, my gosh, he left. What I will say, though, is that with Aranda, I think this is a result of a program that's probably like a mid-tier college football program that was showing flashes, being really hurt by this new age of college football. Because I think that, like you said, Will, people are going to sour on Dave Aranda, but the guy's a good X's and O's coach. And but what these head coaches are asked to do, especially at a school, at a place like Baylor, man, that's just hard. It's really hard.
And if you know about Dave Aranda, The Athletic last year or 2 years ago did a very good write-up, in depth on him and his personality. This is not a guy that's going to be an uber successful head coach in the new age of college football. He's at a really good spot for him personally, being at Baylor, because they're definitely overlooked in the state of Texas. So he's a guy that he loves to grind the film. His favorite thing to do is watch film and scheme. He doesn't like doing the press conferences. He's not going to go to your pancake breakfasts, things like that. He might, but he's not going to love it.
Yeah.
But that's just his personality. So, he's at a good spot to be at a quote unquote big time college football program, because they let him kind of do what he wants to do. But with the way things are now, he's not going to, put them in the playoff, be a national title contender year in, year out.
Last thing for you here. They finished, this is crazy, out of the top 100 in both offensive and defensive scoring. That's nuts to think about. And I'll say this. I think that he survives this year, but I think if they don't get to a bowl game, you could have a conversation 2025. But once again, we're not talking about just about hot seat. We're talking about feeling the pressure. A couple of these guys in the hot seat, and that other one feeling the pressure. We kind of roll into a couple more here that we have. And Ralph, I don't even know who's next on the list. Is it an ACC school?
Yes.
It is. Okay, this is an interesting one. And I threw this one on here because I wanted your guys' opinion. So let's go ahead and throw it up there, Ralph. I got Pat Narduzzi. Okay. I will say this. When I've talked about Pitt on our Georgia Tech shows and talked about what Pitt brings to the college football world, look, you had Kenny Pickett, ACC title team. What was this, 2-3 years ago now? Narduzzi's a good football coach. I think this is another example personally of a guy who is old school, a guy that can't do what he wants in this new age of college football. And guys, Pitt has fallen off. Like they have fallen. And I got into an argument, which is great, with a Pitt fan on Twitter because I said, "Who's your quarterback?" Well, we brought in A, B, and C. I said, "So who's your quarterback?" Well, A, B, and C are going to be good options. Who's your quarterback? Couldn't answer the simple question of who the quarterback is going to be, which shows you they have questions at quarterback. That being said, Will, your thoughts? Because Narduzzi fits the same bill to me as a Dave Aranda. I'm not trying to compare, but just saying these are guys old school, love the game, built just not built maybe for this new age of college football.
Yeah. What is the show's relationship with the Pitt football program? Do we have any?
No.
So
we had some Pitt. Well, you can say whatever you want. I mean, remember you pissed off the entire Georgia Tech fan base about 2 weeks ago, and they're still showing up.
Go ahead and do it.
Pat Narduzzi's kind of a crybaby. The way he's complained about the portal and tampering and things like that, just it's rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, look, I don't like it either, and it's the NCAA not having any power, not enforcing any rules, but I mean, it's kind of how it's always been. You got to pay to play. You got to bend the rules. Bear Bryant said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And that shows. It shows the way that they've played the last couple of years. Just irrelevant, not competitive. They lock into that 2:00 on the CW time slot for the ACC, and it's no surprise. Narduzzi complains and complains and complains, and they don't really get a lot better. So I don't like him.
That's good. Did you just take him out of the show? You just said, "All right, take a break. Take a break."
I meant to hit exit solo layout, and I hit remove. My bad. Apologies. Rough night over here.
Rough night. No, I agree on certain aspects. I mean, a lot of Tech fans are going to remember the weird handshake with Jeff Collins in the 2020 COVID game. I don't know if you guys remember this. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No,
okay. So. Ralph, you talk about Pat Narduzzi and Pitt, and I'll find the clip because this is amazing.
I mean, the only reason he's still there is because he had 2 wins this past year. They beat Louisville at home and then beat Boston College at home. That's the only reason I think Pat Narduzzi has a job right now. Those 2 wins are there saved his life. Saved his career, saved his job there.
His life. Whoa.
Yeah,
his life.
It's well, it sounds like if he cries too much, he may just, be over dramatic.
Okay. Well, all right.
I don't think Pitt has a chance to compete anytime soon. I mean, we talk about when they were competing, they had Kenny Pickett. That was the reason why they were so good. Kenny Pickett, and they had Jordan Addison. A NFL receiver and NFL quarterback. Well, I'm sorry. NFL receiver and a backup quarterback.
Steelers Nation, let's ride.
First round pick.
Round pick to Pittsburgh, 2 small hands. And I think, looking back what Kenny Pickett did in college, with what he had at Pitt, it did enough to keep Narduzzi like, okay, Pitt fans are happy. They're going to make a good bowl game. They're competing in the ACC. They had the COVID year. They had a really dominant year. But now it's like, okay, what can you do for us now? And he has not done anything. Yeah. And I think he's just riding the coattails that, well, we had that really good year in 21. Okay, what's new? I mean, what's now? We're here now, and I don't call us a Pitt fan. I can tell you one Pitt player's name.
Yeah. Well, this is a good point too. What do you do? I don't know. And that's why, that's why we keep saying, if you don't succeed at the ACC or the Big 12, you're in trouble. Like, just bottom line. Like, if you can't, yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Like, 4 years ago, I thought Narduzzi was the basketball coach at Pitt.
Oh God.
I mean, I honestly didn't watch enough Pitt football to give a rat but about it. I mean, they weren't relevant. Let's just be honest here. Like, let's be honest. Like, you look at NFL talent. The most relevant player from Pitt is Aaron Donald, right?
I was going to say, don't disrespect Larry Fitzgerald like that, but you are right.
Well, let's be honest.
I was hoping you'd say yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, and you go back, Larry Fitzgerald. That's really about it, in my opinion. Am I wrong?
I mean,
you're not.
For me to name a Pitt player before Aaron Donald, you got to go all the way back to Dan Marino.
God,
Tony Dorsett. Like, I mean.
But you're not doing anything now, and if that's what Pitt wants to do, then that's all. Then he'll keep his job. If they want to be irrelevant and not win games, that's fine.
This is a great show. We really didn't even plan this as much as I thought we did, and it's been pretty good. Here's the handshake.
It's a bit of a look away.
Just wild, dude.
Hey,
absolutely wild.
Good on Jeff Collins.
Hey,
really.
Show some heart. Show some passion there.
Speaking of Jeff Collins, I think we had a great next one to talk about.
Mac Brown.
Yikes.
Okay, so let's talk about Mac Brown, because this for me, like, guys, I was looking at this and you could call it, I think this is more of a retirement watch type of deal.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you don't win
Forced
there,
retirement.
kind of a forced retirement, because for Mac Brown, like when you start to talk about him in North Carolina, he came out and publicly said they are kind of capped out at NIL money. Like they've hit their ceiling. Now it's a good chunk of change. It's in the top of the ACC of what they can, put out there financially. But man, 6th season, 2nd stint there. He's publicly already said, the coach has publicly said, "Hey, we've hit a wall in our NIL push." He obviously hires Jeff Collins to help with the defense. I don't know if we really want to talk about
great hire, by the way. I mean,
people don't want to hear this, but Jeff Collins
is
going
to hear that.
He's probably better.
Great hire.
What a combo at coordinator. You get Jeff Collins and Chip Lindsey. You can't be bad.
2 of Ralph's favorites. The problem is UNC, they can't get over the 8-9 win hump. And they've had legitimately 2 NFL starting quarterbacks. Like Drake May's going to be the number 2, 3, whatever pick you want to call it. And then we are talking about a guy in Sam Howell that's going to be replaced, but he's been an NFL level quarterback, worthy of that. You can't win with those 2.
He did solid last year. He had a good year.
Yeah, he's all right. But now you do it with Max Johnson. And I think UNC is going to have a conversation if they go into 8-4, 7-5, and just be like, "Hey, you interested in retiring?" type of deal. Like, why don't we go out? Because for me with Matt Brown, why don't you go out before you get that 3-9 season? Because that's not how you want to go. Because look, Mac Brown's great, one of the all-time greats in college football coaching. Has done a lot, been around the game, spanned a lot of college football history. So, yeah, your thoughts. Who wants to go first?
How many more we got after this? Do you want to get to? Because I feel like we can go pretty quick.
We can go over.
I think we all feel
this one.
I mean, I'll just go quickly. I think we all kind of feel the same way, just like you. Like, this is a retirement thing. But I think Jeff Collins, I really do think it's a great hire. They need to move away from that Tampa 2 that Gene Chizik brought in, which was worthless, running a 1980s defense. So, but that's been their Achilles heel. They've been bad on defense. So bringing him in is going to should do wonders for them on that side of the ball. But yeah, I mean, Mac Brown, it's kind of sad to see them falling off. And like you said, I would hate to see him go out on a 3-9 or 4-8, kind of similar to how Frank Beamer did at Virginia Tech.
That's true. Yeah, you don't want to get beamered.
Yeah. I just got a few things. I think let's just say this. Matt Brown is one of 2 coaches right now active that have a national championship?
I think it's 3, isn't it?
Only 2?
I think it's 2 because Saban's gone. Harbaugh's now in the NFL.
Jimbo's
gone.
It's Dabo, Mac Brown, and Kirby.
So
yeah,
Tech's daddy. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, God. But look, Mac Brown has had an extremely awesome career. I mean, you do what he's done for so long. Yeah, I mean, the Hall of Fame coach, he didn't have to come back and be a coach and still be considered great. But he's had some good years at North Carolina. I just think it's like you said, it's retirement watch. I will say this though, that week 2 game is really interesting to me because it's Mac Brown coaching against Biff Poggi. So one of the
that's gonna be great.
I think it's gonna be one of the most exciting games to watch. That post game handshake will be better than anything.
Who's gonna flex more, Jeff Collins
or Biff Poggi? Biff Poggi and
Will Mac Brown have the gall to grab Biff Poggi by the neck? Will he dare?
That's what I'm watching for. That's what I'm watching for.
Like I said, that right there.
Someone clip Ralph saying that, by the way. Just that little part right there, and then that's the whole show.
But anyway, might have me execute.
Also, handshake watch that game October 12th. What's that going to look like post game?
Oh man,
that's Georgia Tech.
Dude,
what is that?
He will be in the box and never leave it, and unless they win, he will be on the field celebrating.
It's at UNC, so it won't be as volatile as it could be.
Oh well, next year will be more fun to watch if he's still there.
Yeah. I mean, the head coach next year. We don't know.
God forbid.
Oh man! All right, next one. We're creeping up there to 100 live viewers. Make sure you like the stream, share it, and subscribe. Tony Elliott at Virginia, guys. Virginia has a unique little quarterback that they've got running around, making some plays. That's the nice way of saying I think they're awful. Virginia should be better, but they're not. And I think that Tony Elliott, I believe that he was in the conversation to be hired at Auburn at one point.
Yep. Dodged a major bullet.
Georgia Tech was in the conversation.
I was trying to tell people.
I agree. Like, it just hasn't worked out when you don't have the players. And I think Tony Elliott was a system of what was the then dynasty type of team and roster at Clemson, rather than just being an individual coach. Your thoughts as on Virginia?
Well, when he took over at Virginia, they were bad, and he's managed to take them further down the line, further back. Obviously had to deal with tragedy. You hate to see that for any coach, especially a first-time head coach like him. Definitely making it tougher, but it just has not had the results on the field. Hasn't been able to recruit there. It's been tough. I mean, you look, they do play SMU this year. That's the only newcomer to the ACC on their schedule. But to be honest with you, every new member of the ACC is better than Virginia, and that's not what you want to hear when you're their founding member of the ACC, aren't they? No, the ACC is young as a conference, but I mean, he just hasn't gotten it done. Like I say, I think Auburn dodged a huge bullet missing on him, because I agree with you 100%. He was a product of Clemson and the players they had there, and not so much him as a coach. I think his X's and O's on the offensive side of the ball are good enough to win, but he just hasn't been able to get the players there and get the results.
To your point on that, Virginia joined the ACC from the SoCon in 1953. I apologize. Virginia was an independent that year. They are one of the founding members. You're correct in that. So, it's one of those things where Virginia should be better.
Was that old? The 50s?
Yeah,
that's older than
which is still technically young when you get to kind of looking
right.
into the other conference. But you're exactly right. But yeah, guys, that's where I feel like that. Like, Ralph, any other thoughts on this one? Because the last one we have is going to be a big talking point to round out the show. But Tony Elliott, Virginia, you got to get to a bowl game. Like, you got to get to a bowl game.
Doubt.
6 wins to keep your job, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's not looking good for him. Honestly, it's not going to be a season where you think that Virginia has a chance to win 7 games. I don't think. You go to Wake Forest, you go to Coastal Carolina. I know it's a Sun Belt school, but Coastal's not a team you overlook.
Hey, don't mess with Shants.
I'm not. I do, but Grace McCall's gone now, so you go to Clemson and you have a tough in the season when you got North Carolina, you go at Clemson, at home against North Carolina, at Pitt, at Notre Dame, SMU, at Virginia Tech. And I just don't see them winning maybe one of those games.
Over under win total is at right now. FanDuel has it at 4.5.
Under. I think they hit 3. I think 3 is a max.
Honestly. I see 3. I mean, look at winnable games. Richmond.
Yep.
Don't sleep on the Fighting Spiders. All right.
No, they are a very solid.
They're
FCS
a decent
program.
FCS team.
There's about 20 people I know who would say Boston College because of the head coach.
Yes, I would. Yeah.
Well, they're
I think that's a winnable game.
And I think Pittsburgh.
Wake is Wake a winnable game for them?
I don't think so.
Depends on how Wake.
And we got to keep this in mind. Like, rosters are still going to fluctuate and change post the spring portal cycle. So, but they've only. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, Ralph. Yeah, Pitt winnable game.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't. They attacked the portal as best they could. They didn't bring anyone they really, I guess, could use. That would be an instant success there. Or an instant,
well, according to that one guy on Twitter, they did.
AKA Ralph doesn't recognize a single name on the list that they brought in to transfer. That's what that comment means.
I mean, I'm looking at the list. I don't know any of these people. I mean, the quarterback they're bringing is Gavin Frakes from New Mexico State.
That man backed up Diego. He couldn't even play over.
You're entering weird territory there, Will.
I know.
Look,
he couldn't play over short stack Diego.
I don't think Virginia has done enough this portal and the recruiting classes in the past to be super competitive this year to even get close to a bowl game. So I think this is Elliott's last year, honestly.
All right, we're going into our last one. Before we do, an honorable mention about there in the ACC. I've mentioned him. I think he's a good football coach. I think it's another product of we're seeing a lot of the ACC coaches. I think in the next 2 to 3 years, they're going to be a bunch of brand new faces, by the way. And Dave Clawson's another one for me over at Wake Forest. Good football coach, gets a lot out of a little. I think the idea of getting a lot out of a little is going to become more and 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 become more.
Well, I don't know what just happened right there.
I thought that was my internet, but I
don't know what just happened.
We got a new camera angle.
Yeah, a way different camera angle. I don't like this angle. Kind of creepy looking. You get that fixed real quick, Bryce, and we'll bring you back.
This is why you got to watch the YouTube. You see the weird camera angle.
We're sorry for that. Bryce is fixing that. We will move to the next one. I added this in like right before the show started. I don't know if you saw it. I brought it up on the screen. I don't know if you were in here yet. Ryan Day.
Ooh.
And this is, to me, the only reason I put Ryan Day in here is not because he's on a hot seat for this year. I think he's given this year easily. He killed it in the transfer portal. They are entering a new
and hiring offensive coordinator.
And hired a great offensive coordinator. But I think, all right, so all that's happened, right? Now you gotta win.
Mm-hmm.
Can you win it all, or can you? And Bryce and I were talking before it, and I said I think it's national championship or bust at this point for this year or next year. And I agree. You know, he goes really not the national championship, but can you win the conference or beat Michigan? Because they haven't done that in the past 4 years. You know, and I don't think I think it's really. I think it's truth. I think Ryan Day has to win it all to really. I'll say this: he has to win the conference to stay in the next 2 years. Sorry, not for this year alone, because you brought in a incredible transfer portal. You bring in the top 5 class year in, year out, and you have done nothing with it.
Josh Brown. Don't even highlight his comment.
I will say this: he got me though. I did Google.
I googled as soon as you said he put it. I was like, whoa! We're about to change. We're about to go live. We'll catch you live here in about a second. We're going to commercial. We'll be right back.
We got to call Logan.
Logan's covering. Who won the Sun Belt title game, by the way, Ralph?
I think it's James Madison did.
Shout out, hearts for Logan. Over there covering the Red Wolves. He did get to cover Frank the Tank though the other day at the game. So, anyways, all right, Ryan Day. I don't think it's national championship bust. I think it's top 4. I think he's got to make the top 4 for me. You got to win the Big Ten. But then it's like, but this is the thing.
They get a favorable schedule this year, though.
They do.
Yeah, it's not as hard of a schedule. But this is the thing. Like, who are you going to go out and get better? Anybody you want could be anybody you want.
The offensive coordinator.
Promote
from within.
You think Chip Kelly would do well there? I'm excited to see Chip Kelly with Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. Like, I am excited to watch that offense.
I mean, it's going to be gross. They're going to be a disgusting duo.
Mr. Singh says if Ryan Day doesn't win it, then what the hell is he even doing, man? I agree. Hands down. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know any of us are doing, to be honest with you.
I mean,
getting Chip Kelly, I think, is going to save his job. I mean, they're going to be so much better on offense. You know, not only bringing in Quinshon Judkins, bringing in Will Howard. They upgraded the 2 most important positions. You know, they've got
Caleb Downs. That's the main one.
What are you talking about offense?
Caleb Downs.
Oh, well, I'm saying
the 2 most important positions on the offensive side of the ball. And you bring in
the best secondary player in the country.
Probably the best guy you could have gotten at offensive coordinator to run that offense. They've got a favorable schedule. The only newcomer they go to Oregon in the middle of the season, right on October 12th. So, I mean, you can't. I think to keep the pressure off, you've got to start 11-0, and then you think Michigan at home, they can win that game and go play for the Big Ten title. And well, they scrapped divisions in the Big Ten too, didn't they? So it's just the top two to play.
So it could literally be them again. It could be you play this game and then play in the next week.
Right, but I don't know. Maybe you get a pass dropping a game at Oregon, but I mean, I kind of feel like you need to go 11-0 up to the Michigan game to have the pressure off him.
Question for you guys. They still have Jack Sawyer, and then they still got the two ends, right? Sawyer and then the JT.
I think Sawyer's still there. I don't know if Sawyer left. I think Sawyer's still there though.
So they're going to have defensive weapons. You mentioned they're going to have arguably the best. I mean, the kid's a freshman, but he might be the most well-polished young player in the country in Caleb Downs.
Yeah, Jack Sawyer he returned this year.
Emeka Egbuka is back. Has battled some injury. He's going to be their number one receiver. Carnell Tate's another time. I mean, they're going to have receivers. Jeremiah Smith, the true freshman, is unbelievable.
Have you seen those videos from camp?
It's stupid.
Some of the catches he's making, it's
ridiculous.
It's pretty nuts.
But Will, you hit the nail on the head here with when people said, "Okay." Also, remember they got Julian Sagan, in the transfer portal. When we were talking about this, like Will Howard, it's kind of underwhelming when we thought about Ohio State quarterbacks, but then you bring in Chip Kelly, and it really makes sense because Will Howard's a good athlete, very very good athlete, and that run game.
He's an upgrade over everybody they had.
Yeah,
already there.
Look, no disrespect, but you can't play quarterback in college football and be 33. You just can't run around like Devin Brown wearing number 33. And I just firmly believe that. But the RPO game with Will Howard, Trevion Henderson, and Quinshon Judkins is going to be very, very hard for anybody to stop. So I think that, once again, this is not maybe it's a hot seat for you guys. I just think the pressure's on immensely because I think if you don't make the top 4 in the playoff this year, then you're on the hot seat because Ohio State should be making the 12-team playoff every year, no matter what. Like they should just be
no
that should be that. So yeah. Or go ahead, Ralph.
I was going to say at the end of the season after the Michigan loss, you go back to Ohio State when they lost, when they just had an exfil of players. It started with Kyle McCord, then Julian Fleming left, and you started seeing like, okay, is this the downfall of Ryan Day? And then they bounce back and they bring in Will Howard, Seth McLaughlin from Bama, Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Downs, saying just like, okay, so no downfall. This is the year like, okay, everyone's thinking Alabama or Ohio State's got the best chance to win it all this year, right? Because of all the weapons they just brought in. So I like I said before, I put them in here because the expectations is really high. And if you can't even come close to those expectations, then that seat is hot for next year. Because Ohio State's wanting a national championship. They won a Big Ten. They want to be in the playoffs, and they haven't lived up to that in the last few years. So.
Well, I'll tell you this too. If you're going off of, I don't know how much people look at this, but I think it does give an example of what's supposed to happen. And it's the betting odds. Ohio State per FanDuel is the second best betting odds to win the national title, plus 480 right now.
Behind Georgia.
Georgia's plus 300. Ohio State's plus 480. And really, you could talk about this too. Every single coach in that category, okay, if I'm giving the top 6 teams, I've got Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Oregon, Bama, LSU. Kalen DeBoer's not going to get fired in year 1 unless they go 2-10. But what I'm saying is like
that'd be a miracle.
Ryan Day's got the most pressure on him out of that list.
Yeah,
no doubt.
And I think Will and I agree on this. I think I believe the same thing Will believes. I think Oregon is about to be the class of the Big Ten in the next 2 to 3 years, and I think Ralph agrees there too. It's just.
Yeah. I mean, if Harbaugh stayed, obviously it's Michigan 1,000%. But with what Oregon's doing, they're getting a lot better.
I like it. Any other names we didn't mention? Will, you're not allowed to say Hugh Freeze, but any other names that we didn't mention?
I mean, is it bad to say Mario Cristobal?
Ooh. No, I don't think it's the pressure. There's pressure there, man. You're recruiting at an unreal level, but you can't even learn how to kneel the ball.
It's 2 seasons so far. He's 12-12. That's not good for what.
Here's a question for you: if Mario Cristobal can't win there, who can?
Oh, that's a great question because I don't know a single answer.
What about
Don't say PJ Fleck.
No, it might be a little early to go here. But I feel like Brent Venables is under some pressure at Oklahoma. I mean, they're used to winning.
I wouldn't say hot seat, but I'm cool with you there.
They kind of feels like they've taken maybe a half step back. They lost their entire starting offensive line in the portal. That's not a good look.
Yeah. And it's all on Jackson Arnold.
Yeah.
And he's coming to the SEC, so expectations are higher.
I said Matt Rule in our private chat about this, and I think Will said it best. Getting Dylan Raiola really extends him a little bit. And I completely agree.
Absolutely.
Getting him and not having Jeff Sims is going to help.
Yeah. An actual real quarterback for once. I got one, and I know Will's going to hate me for saying it, but it's true. He's been there for 15 years. Greg Schiano at Rutgers.
He's not been there for 15 years.
It says 15 seasons.
Between his 2 stints, yeah.
Well, it's 2 stints.
Okay, I was about to say, there's no way.
It's 2 stints there. He's 87 and 94 there.
But I don't know the expectation at Rutgers.
I agree, but it's the same thing with
what he's done.
Chip Kelly. What's the same thing with Chip Kelly at UCLA when he was there? What's the expectation for him?
I don't even think UCLA doesn't have a football team, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I'm looking at a list and it has his name on there, and I was like, this is weird.
So you're cheating. Is what you're saying.
Cheating.
I am most certainly. Did you not look at a list before you did this?
No, I've never looked at anything.
I can't look at all. So
I'm gonna get some points for Bryce. Did you know that was coming? That's why. Did you kick him out?
No, I didn't touch anything. I don't know why he left.
I don't know.
He's just laughing.
You'll like this one, Kirk Ferentz. 100%.
Get him out, please, God, get him out.
Needs to be on the hot seat. I mean, they're finally putting a stop to the nepotism in Iowa, and that should help them offensively.
And it's allowed is ridiculous.
And it was allowed for so long.
All right, I got one here too. We're rounding the show. We're just kind of bouncing ideas off of one another. Nowhere near the hot seat, but pressure, Dabo Swinney.
Yeah,
because they got to get serious whether they're going to compete at the tier 1 of college football or they're just going to be, another team. So I think that for me, he's feeling the pressure. Like they need to get back to. Now, I want to say this too. The run that they went on when Dabo got there was overshadowed by Alabama because he won 10, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm going to look this up. He won 10 plus games for like 10 straight years.
It took him a few years to get going, but yeah.
Like I think I'm right in that. Yeah, they won 10 games or more every year since 2011.
That's insane.
That's really hard to do. And you're talking about you're talking about a run from 2015 to 2019 where they won 12 games or more.
Yeah, to be honest, the fact that there's any pressure on him is ridiculous. He's already.
I just think more of the scheme of college football, though.
The best head coach in the history of Clemson football. I mean, and it's not. I think it's crazy. Well, Tyler from Spartanburg needs to check himself.
I think
that was ridiculous.
It was surprising that his name was not thrown in the hat more for the Bama job because I think I even said it when Saban retired that Dabo was the first phone call.
And the phone call might have been made. I think the phone call was made to Kirby.
Well, I'm just saying I think it's more like I thought that would be like the number one option because of everything him playing there. I think everyone thought he would be more enticed to go to the SEC finally. Take the job that was kind of like made for him. I wouldn't say made for him. It was kind of like laid out for him later on in his career. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of the job that we all thought he would take, but it never really picked up steam. his name with the job.
Well, I think 2 years ago, everyone's like, yeah. But the fact that he refuses to use the transfer portal is probably why he was never really a strong consideration.
Is Brett Bielema on the hot seat in Illinois?
Where does he coach?
Illinois.
Exactly.
I mean,
Again, what's the
saying,
expectation? What's the
they
expectation?
got rid of Lovie Smith for some reason. I mean, what's the expectation there? It's just
and everybody.
I think Bill O'Brien's got pressure. I'll go ahead and say that right now.
Everybody already hates me, so I'm gonna say it. Brent Key, Georgia Tech needs if he's the real deal, they've got to take the step this year.
I'll tell you who
No,
doesn't
you're
have
not wrong. There's pressure. There's I've said it every single week. There's pressure. There's pressure to win there. You have to win.
I'll tell you who
he's the guy. It's got to happen this year. They've got to have clear and tangible results.
I'm going to say this too.
Winning the ball game was nice, but
a lot of these lists have Clark Lee. I think you're drunk if you think Clark Lee is on.
Leave Clark Lee alone, okay?
Just
leave what he can.
Now listen, not a friend of the program. Turned down an interview. But
again, what's the expectation there? Field a team. I think field a team. I think field a team is the expectation at Vanderbilt. Just find 85 people to dress.
AAA for college football. Show how many prospects you can put out there for some
single
college.
Help out. How many people transfer out of there?
Kalani Sitake, but I don't care about that. So
at BYU,
yeah. Here's another one that is going to be interesting to watch. Not feeling the pressure, and I want to clarify, Mr. Singh, we're talking about here because this is going to get lost in translation. We're saying just the pressure of the Georgia Tech job, the pressure of where you are in college football. Not on the hot seat by any means. I don't think he is. Now if they go 2-10, he is, because you can't afford to take a step back. Here's one: retirement watch. Kyle Whittingham has publicly said he doesn't want to coach past his 65th birthday.
Yeah, he is. I actually have his record pulled up for 19 seasons there. He's 162 and 78.
I think they make the playoff, honestly. I think they win the Big 12 this year.
It's insane. He's been like Urban Meyer left Utah for Florida and they promoted Kyle Whittingham and they haven't had a coaching change.
And Florida's had 37 coaches since then. Like, you think about it. Like that's the longevity of that guy.
It's a weird one. When we were looking at the Arkansas schedule, I realized is Mike Gundy considered any more pressure or just get out, please?
Maybe a mix between pressure and retirement watch, truthfully.
Is it retirement or is it just like go on somewhere, please?
I kind of feel like Gundy's representative kind of puts a lot of that out to try to get him some more money from Oklahoma State. I think he's done it in the past. Because he's been really good. He's been really good there. So what do you? Yeah.
You know what would be fun? Where does Jimbo go if one of these guys gets fired?
Ohio State.
Miami. Jimbo replacing Chris Paul at Miami.
God, how much money are they gonna pay to get him there? Good grief.
None.
Jimbo would be
none. There's no mitigation clause in his contract at Texas A&M.
Jimbo would be making bank, dude. I mean, he's just rolling in cash at this point.
I do like what Mr. Singh said a few minutes ago. Dion? I don't think so.
Because there's pressure because he brings it on himself. But I mean,
because Colorado,
there's national pressure, not pressure.
The athletic director has basically said, like,
you got a blank check.
We can't believe we have Dion.
They don't even really pay him. I don't think.
We don't know how we're going to pay him.
Well, they pay him.
No, I don't think they do. I don't think they actually do. Like they don't. They've said they don't have the money to pay him. Like I legitimately think that this guy is just working for free. Like that is completely unprofessional take, but it's just my personal opinion. All right, hey, we're gonna roll for 10 more minutes live here, and we're gonna wrap up at the hour and a half mark. 90-minute show, fantastic show. People have stayed tuned the entire time. Large following on Twitter, which has just been great. We appreciate that. One person watching on Facebook. Probably Josh Brown, but does that even really count?
No, I think it's Ken Hendricks.
Can we just bring the Knockahoma Nation podcast back? We'll bring it. We'll bring it back under the Crowded Booth umbrella. Honestly,
I'll say this: we may not want to do that to the comment that was made the other day on Twitter.
Oh, that was wild.
Hey, shout out to Josh Brown though. That was a great comment.
Oh, that was great. I even
tried to out him on Facebook to everybody too.
Yeah. Ronald
Josh
Acuna's
knows
fan
how-
base.
Josh knows how to work Twitter, work the
Okay.
internet. He's great at it.
Aside from John Summerall, who's the next rising? We talk about guys in the hot seat, or feeling the pressure. Who's like the next guy like to win it? I'm going to throw out a couple names. I talked with him 2 weeks ago. Tom Herman. If he wins at FAU,
Oh,
he's going to get back there. Go watch the interview if you haven't already.
Will's already said it like twice tonight. Rhett Lashley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think.
Yes.
Who's another one?
Oh,
GJ Kinney at Texas State. GJ Kinney.
Is
Okay. I don't
Bryce
even
doesn't even know who that is.
is Alec Golish one?
Ooh, Alex Golish.
South Florida.
Not a bad one. I'm going to throw one down here in Baton Rouge. That you can need a couple of guys you need to keep an eye on. Joe Sloan, OC. If he puts up another really good year with Nussmeier and shows that he has the offense to do it, he's going to get some looks at the Group of 5 level to be a head coach. And Cortez Hankton too, receivers coach. Let's throw it out there. Buster Faulkner. Like if he puts up another top 30, top 25 type of year at Georgia Tech's offense, he's going to get a look. He was interviewed for the Middle Tennessee State head coaching job, was a candidate for the Arkansas OC job. He's on team's radar. But I don't know. Well, who on Auburn's staff would be considered in this role? Is there anybody? And I mean that not facetiously, seriously.
Yeah, I don't think so. Hugh Freeze canned the 2 guys that were on staff that were next up.
Okay, thanks for talking about that. Yeah, because we're gonna have to cut him off right there. Glenn Schumann, obvious one, over at Georgia. So there's that.
Still Del McGee.
Clay Helton.
Yeah, I was thinking Clay Helton. Just for
No, dude,
Clay.
he owns his house in Statesboro. He's not going.
I tried to tell Ralph that John Summerall was renting, and he didn't believe me. He had to learn the hard way.
Just leave me alone.
Jared Parker.
Did you see? And I'm not going to publicly support them because they're a rival company, but not rivals. Nobody cares about rivals. But the other thing that's like up to the opposite of up to, add one and go the opposite way. Our good friend Palmer Thomas is employed by him. They did a great article, Ralph, on Troy's new head coach and the overall like recruiting. Like they brought in a really great recruiting class, top recruiting class in the Sun Belt. So maybe all's not lost on there and down there. I don't even know what they call that. Who's that?
The starting quarterback this year. So
I got one for you. You ready for this one? Derek Mason. If Derek Mason wins at Middle Tennessee State, could he be the next head coach of Vanderbilt?
I'd
rehire him.
He should still be the head coach at Vanderbilt. What do you
never should have gotten fired?
What about Charles Huff at Marshall?
That's a good one.
Yep.
Jamie Chadwell. Yeah.
Friend of the Tech fan base right there, baby. Gavin Hart.
Yes. Friend of the Discord.
I mean, look, I think
Major Applewhite.
We'll see how he does this year.
Getting a second shot as a head coach.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kane Womack. I mean, Kane Womack's got to be in the cards too.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was shocked by him take. I mean, I understand taking the job. It's obviously a better job, but I thought he could have maybe got a Power 5 job 2 more years later. But this obviously helps his resume out a lot more. So.
It's crazy. We have sitting head coaches taking demotions. That's
what our
the state of college football.
Is it weird to Oh man.
I need the team up of Major Applewhite and General Booty, all name team. We might need to come up with an all name team. I'm going to get you guys to scour some rosters.
We have 2 quarterbacks, Goose Crowder and Major Booty. Absolutely. General Booty, sorry. Dude, that's a great name. I'm
trying to think of who else.
Is it weird to say? I mean, I want to say it. I don't think he'll ever head coach again. Is it Will Muschamp? Bad to say.
No, he's
done coaching.
I think he's really content on just what he does, and especially since he just took an analyst role. Like he's not even the DC anymore.
No, and I just think that's like I don't know if it was a bad. I don't want to say bad name. I just think it was like a name that should be thrown out there, but he won't take the job.
To give you a couple, it's really easy to do this because you can kind of just look up Georgia's coaching staff.
Where would Will Muschamp go?
Is Prince Avenue Christian? I mean, I don't know. Travaris Robertson is going to be a candidate as a guy. to be the guy. Trey Scott is another one over there, the defensive line coach for Georgia. Biff Poggi, whatever. We need to get him on the show. That's the next one we need to get on the show.
Rich Rod.
Ooh. That's a good one, Ralph. Little Kusa action.
I had to think about that one for a minute. I didn't know if I wanted to say or not.
Ralph, can you off the top of your head list all the teams of the Conference USA without looking it up?
Absolutely not.
How many can we get?
Jacksonville State.
Western Kentucky.
Never mind. All right.
Kennesaw.
Is Rice in there, or am I wrong about that one?
I think Rice is in the American.
Are they really?
Yeah, they are. UTEP.
UTEP's there, I think.
Will is completely zoned out of the rest of the show.
I'm looking at names.
Liberty.
Yeah.
New Mexico State.
Let's wrap this up. I got one more name.
Please.
Feeling pressure, okay? Marcus Freeman.
Yeah, I think we should have put in. I agree, because he's got Riley Leonard now.
Yeah, but I mean, not a hot seat, but he's feeling pressure. You got to win.
National pressure.
And now with not kind of getting guaranteed a spot really in the playoff, there's a ton of pressure to win.
They're completely content.
Like, is Notre Dame going to be irrelevant in 10 years if they don't join a conference?
No.
Yes.
I don't think so. I think that.
Yes.
What keeps them relevant though if they don't make it? Who said Tashard Choice?
Who do you think? Who do you think is Tashard Choice?
If he'd have went to Georgia as the running backs coach, those folks would have melted. Someone, I want to get this out of the way. We're gonna wrap up right after this. Ralph, we're gonna run an ad here at the end. Go ahead and get our "Smell Like Me" ad ready to go. Well, actually, go ahead and run it right now. We'll come right back.
Your soap is ugh, and your body wash is a synthetic detergent. But you're not a dish. You're a man. Switch to Dr. Squatch Natural Soap for Men. For men who build things. Open pickle jars on the first try. Slay dragons. And let their daughters braid their hair. Men who like to feel good and smell titillating. Dr. Squatch takes you places you never thought you'd go. Naked.
No.
What do you mean no?
Bryce, you texted me 10 minutes ago, so let's go until 1:30.
Yeah, an hour and 30 minutes. We got 2 minutes.
Yeah, 1:30 in the morning.
I thought you meant 1:30 in the morning. There's just there's no way I can stay up and talk that long. Jeez. Look, man, it's been a long day.
All right, so we set the stage, and I completely forgot what I was going to talk about. Code hashtag Ralph Larry. No, you use code Bryce Koon. Smell like me.
Nope,
you get You're at $10 off your order. $10 more, and you can use it as many times as you want, ladies and gentlemen. It's gonna be good stuff. Could be good stuff. Hey, we appreciate everyone tuning in. Seriously, been a great show. Over 100 people watching live. That's fantastic. Great numbers. If you're watching on Twitter, look, you could follow us. You could set up notifications. You can watch there exclusively. We would love for you to head over to our YouTube channel where we have not only live content, but pre-recorded content as well for you to check out on our channel. Varying stuff. We talk college football every single Monday night, 8 Central, 7 Eastern. Sometimes we need to push back to 8:30. We might end up pushing back to 8:30 for kind of the rest of the way. Backwards. 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, right?
Yep. There you go.
Yeah. I'm tired of living in Louisiana, I guess. That being said, we appreciate you watching. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe to the channel. Head over. Go to thecrowdedbooth.com. We'll have stuff over there as well. If you're listening to this after the fact, subscribe or follow us and leave us a 5-star review. Or if you really hate Ralph that much, just leave a 1-star review and let us know how you feel about him in the comments below. He doesn't care about you or what you think, or really anybody.
Really,
so
X.
He doesn't know anybody, to be honest with you.
Won't care.
Some new stuff coming out. We're going to have a fantastic coaching interview at the end of March that you guys are going to want to see, going to want to be a part of. And, man, I cannot wait to welcome him on the show. It's going to be a ton of fun. My name's Bryce Koon. That's Will Mannis. And that's Ralph Leary, who reads all the comments. I elect not to. Ken says he's his hero. You're my hero, Ken. We'll catch you next time here on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming. coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
So real quick there, Marcus, wanted to get to your comment here. You said, yo, what's up? Good stuff. Good to talk to you. Georgia Tech depth chart coming out later this week. We'll catch you next time. See you guys later. We'll talk, about other things when that comes up. Appreciate you watching.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.